Greetings, lords and ladies. Another Larpcast coming at ya. Just getting done filming a project way deep in the Ozark Mountains. And it feels like Lord of the Rings back here. I can't lie. You know, one of the things we always wanted, I mean, it's pretty much a fantasy of most LARPers to build a medieval town, get some land, make that epicness happen. And I'm no exception. Definitely got the same ideas. Always wanted to do it. When we started the Wisconsin Live Action Role Players back in 2010, we had started at a little park, and then we found a location that some other role players use, the Society for Creative Anachronisms, SCA. They had a little place, and so we went out there and talked with the ranger, which turned out to be Camp Sinoa. And 300 acres. They liked how we concentrated on safety and family friendliness, and we didn't have any real religions or real deities and that kind of stuff. It was all music to their ears. It was easy to sell it to the board. We were able to get acceptance. We had insurance. We had waivers. We had everything covered, so it protected the trust of the camp, and we got the green light to host games there, which is where the World Games were for a few years, I think. But we couldn't really build too many structures on the primitive side of the property. They couldn't be real structures. We had to work with land management, DNR, forestry service people, and they were very adamant that there couldn't be permanent structures back there. We put our little temporary cabin back there. It worked out pretty good, but it didn't have a base, so it fell apart pretty quickly. And where we had to end up putting it, it was too wet. Holy Toledo. I've down some of these sketchy back roads. If you're hearing the background noise, I don't think I'm going to be able to take out all the noise. We're like forging streams back here, dirt roads that are questionable. You get a tornado back here and you're going to be crawling over logs. That's why I got the big Jeep, so we can get to where I need to go and get back out safely. But yeah, so found a location here in Missouri that had a real castle on it, and we had the ability to maybe do some stuff there, developing that relationship, and doing there's a lot of rural property in the Ozarks that we potentially could set up something a little bit more permanent. Land prices are, of course, at a premium no matter where you go, so if we wanted to do this thing, it would take some time, and we learn from other game systems on how to buy property and how not to buy property and how to be transparent on stuff. Because some of these folks that did this with other game systems were not transparent, and they hung the LARPers out to dry, and that's very unfortunate. So we can figure something out like that. We will. If we can't, well, if we can rent it and just build stuff and do it that way, that's fine too, whatever. We want a high immersion standard. We want a very accurate theme for Renaissance, medieval, Bronze Age, Iron Age, depending on whatever time period we're in. We want to build those towns to that architecture style and, teach people how to utilize the tools that were available at that time. So our fantasy elements of Vicentia are going to blend, different clubs, different hosts that are going to run, their LARP club are going to have a realm or realms, locations, lands, and they're going to be able to pick which time frame that they're going to be in for that location. So unlike on Earth, where everything was running, at the same time frame, even different civilizations had different technologies that they developed at different times. So we want to, simulate that, replicate that, and do that with our game system, where you might be, 15th century in one location and 13th century in another location, and your armors are going to be different, your housing is going to be different, your garb is going to be different. And even if it's a fantasy where we have, possibly giants or some other types of races that are mentioned in historical text, we want to play those out in those time periods. So we're going to have a whole section in our rulebook or on the website to help people understand how some of the cultures around the world at different levels of advancement, at different time frames. So it makes it easier for people hosting games. We don't expect them to be history buffs or scholars of any type, but we're going to loosely put some, guidelines down to say, all right, if you're going to be 14th century, medieval Europe, or, let's say you're in the Africa Plains or whatever. We want to do some research, develop characters, in a time period that was as realistic as possible while still keeping the fantasy element in there. So that's going to be the process. It's beautiful out here in the Ozark Mountains, and there's so much opportunity here to develop things that are more permanent and doing it at a cost that's lower. As a prepper, I would consider myself pretty knowledgeable on how to do off-grade watering systems, sanitation, energy, and making it so that you can do this in a safe way. And so while we want to have it remote, we still got to have it safe and, develop a protocol for that. Keep forgetting to turn off my radios before I start recording. And so, yeah, super exciting. There's, out here in the Ozarks, the waterfalls are awesome. The rivers are pristine. You can drink right out of most streams. It's like one of the best locations for a fantasy setting. If you can find the right elements on a property, location in the central United States would be one that would be where everybody could kind of get to it. It would be not exorbitant amounts of money like it would be if you were building it in a highly developed area. I'm excited. I had so much fun building stuff at Silva and building trails and coming up with storyline, and all of us who are hosting games, we meet up either on location or I'd film it and then bring it back to the group and let them study it, and we'd all kind of come up with some ideas of how to create the story between different regions, and then we would run that storyline to the hosts who were not in the region and try to figure out how to connect some dots storyline wise, so that a quest that was in the St. Louis area would make mention of something in Arkansas, which also would mention something in Wisconsin, which had hints of something from Texas or California. I mean, we had that kind of stuff going on where you would look at the scrolls, and so on the backside, us hosts would work on collaborating loose storylines and character developments and things where people would travel. So if we knew a character, if we were going on vacation and making a surprise visit to a different realm, we would, run that by the hosts ahead of time to come up with some kind of cool reason for that character to be there. Yeah, it was just fun. It's all the fun crap that we all come up with. It's just so cool being part of this community. It's really neat. Players and hosts come up with these ideas. They're awesome. Totally awesome. I just got a text from my neighbor. I guess we're out of power again. So that's fun. So yeah, we want to keep doing the Larpcasts and talking about how to be successful, how to make successful games, how to keep players engaged, things to stay away from that would cause confrontation. And a lot of this stuff we learned by accident. A lot of this stuff we've learned from other people's mistakes. I know I've made a huge amount of mistakes myself learning this stuff to the game systems, and as has others. But how do we navigate all of the errors of the human ways and the different skills and abilities people have and do it in such a way that the games and the storylines can continue? One of the things that sucked a lot when we moved from YLARP to Larpcraft, we had all these storylines in there. And moving the websites, it was very difficult to incorporate versions of the website, which is another reason why I don't want to use some of the hosting stuff we used to host or software we used to have. We've learned because we've lost thousands and thousands of hours of stories, and it's horrible I got a lot of that stuff, but when you change formats or change game systems, there's some of this stuff that you just won't be able to, but people have spent a lot of time developing and writing in the forums and the scrolls, whatever, and you have to be able to keep those stories. Some people have written them down. We know we have a lot of people in the Missile Liking system that wrote a lot of their stuff down on paper, doing it analog, which is highly encouraged. I got the worst handwriting, and so I cheated. I bought a Cricut, and I was writing scrolls using the plotter, the Cricut machine, so you can put a felt point tip pen in there. It was too perfect, but it was better than my chicken scratch, and it was definitely better than printing it out on a printer, because you could actually make the paper and put it in the machine, and it would usually take it or write on it if you did it slow, depending on how ruffled the paper was. Like myself and others are very passionate about trying to do things as authentically as we can, because if we give 110%, the players give 110%. But if we don't, if we're doing stuff rinky-dink, half-assed, pardon my language, why would the players expect to do anything other than what we do? So if we hold ourselves to a higher standard, they will too. And that's kind of the goal. And it worked well in previous games. But yeah, I don't know. It's getting exciting. We're coming into summer here. Well, it is a little bit warmer. I have a location on some acreage, the little barnorium. I'm working on putting air conditioning in the barn so that we can, it can be 110 degrees outside and we can still be, sparring in a climate-controlled environment. I actually, with the rainwater system, wanted to put a outdoor shower. If people are wanting to not get their car full of freaking sweat after, swinging all day, swinging swords and stuff, they can just hit the outside shower or whatever. It's that kind of stuff. Hygiene's important, and making sure people are not getting sick or whatever. It's all part of it. So stay clean. So we do have a few sawmills in the area. We do have access to some timber, perhaps. So we might be able to make some wooden structures. We may do like rough saw and limper and takeoffs and that kind of stuff. Try to make things a little more authentic. I mean, we could plan it out and do it the old-fashioned way too, which would work as well. If we don't have access to that much lumber, that might not be possible. But we want to build some structures. We want to have some nice canvas tents, cotton tents, canvas tents, all the modern-day tents and stuff. And that stuff gets pretty pricey. It's a little bit less if you buy the canvas and sew it yourself, and then, strike up some wooden dowels and, make some fasteners and that kind of stuff. So it'd be really cool if we had more companies or people making kits for that kind of, where you could get all the parts. So the cast or machine parts for holding the frames together and the wooden poles together, or doing it in a historically accurate way where you had blacksmith pins and shackles and things to, hold things together through inclement weather. Your inside of your dwelling is still period. So if you're having a character-to-character interaction inside a tent, the game doesn't stop because everything in the tent is also authentic. And that would be one of the most ultimate goals, I would think. It'd be really cool if we could, get enough, I think, again, from the prepping standpoint, I try to make it where if we can get people to have the sheep, to make the wool, to spin the yarn, that kind of stuff, to grow the cotton, do the cotton gins, make the cotton, make the canvas. How far down the line can we go? We can go all the way down the line. Right on down to where if we had property where you can live on full time and basically live in that period, mostly permanently. I mean, that's a sustainable living because people back then didn't have any of the technology. It would work. It would be sustainable. If you could support yourself, I think that'd be pretty cool. The theme it in an old village. I've been to some places in California, some towns that are themed that way, but in a different, Switzerland, or I think it would work pretty awesomely. Well, I'm trying to think of what else to talk about here. Well, I'm on the road without a script. It'll be wonderful to interact and get some other folks involved on the podcast, get some interviews going, be interviewed by others, share the love of the game and the hobby and the lifestyle. Can't wait to be doing that. I've been doing a lot of product review videos right now, re-editing some of the other ones, and got some really cool new weaponry I want to test out, do videos on, and do giveaways for, and start building up our loader weapons again before we start hosting games. We got lots of different weapons to choose for people who want to try it out. Kind of important. So there's some upfront costs. When people are starting out making a club, one of the things we try to tell them to do is just make some foam offers, some duct tape weapons. That way you buy some foam noodles and some PVC, you're out a few bucks. Just see if it works before you go all in and do the theatrical weapons and that kind of stuff. And see what the feedback is. I've known groups that didn't make any loader weapons and everybody was expected to bring their own stuff, and that works just fine too. So we've done events at schools, we've done them at colleges, we've done them at, like I said, parks and our own private stuff that we rent. It just depends on the location. It depends on who is available, what skills and talents people have, what resources they have. And once you get 2 or 3 or 5, different locations, and you start getting a consistent player base of, 5 people, then 10 people, then before you know it, it's 20 people. And what I tell people who are thinking about hosting, what I tell them is it usually takes 6 consistent weeks to build a little bit of an audience. And so you gotta host a game and be ready to host the next game. have a storyline, ready to continue the storyline. And if you can do that consistently, and it doesn't have to be like every weekend, but it has to be something where you're doing it, if you can do it once a month, so for 6 months, you're building an audience, that works. If you can do it once every other week, cut it down half the time. Once a week, cut it down to half again. Not everybody's going to be able to attend every weekend, and it's important to also have practices and some sparring sessions and maybe even some mini games on the weekday, because some people work weekends and can't get off for a lot of stuff. So Larp groups try to work around other people's schedules if possible, and it's also less busy during the week. So some places that aren't available during the weekend, you can host on a Wednesday. We've done that kind of game too. We'll do like a whole day game during the week. If there's enough time in advance, we've done it. So it does work, just not as often. So yeah, I guess we'll end this Larpcast. Thanks for joining us. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, please post your ideas in the comments section below this video at larpcast.com, on one of the social media platforms that it's going to be on, in YouTube, on whatever streaming service you use. Feel free to give a comment, give us a share, give us a like, give us a review, a star, whatever, and make sure to be a part of this. This is Artenen. Game on!